All right. Ms. Johnson, can you please begin the recording? The time is now 6:10 p.m. Good evening and welcome to the March 18th, 2025 Disability Issues Advisory Board meeting. I am Teresa Smith, Advisory Board Chair, or Vice Chair, excuse me, and thank you all for joining today. For those who are unable to observe now, the meeting is being recorded and can be accessed on the PGCPS YouTube channel for later viewing. Ms. Johnson, please call the roll.
Certainly. Good evening, everyone. Sylvia Maya, Stephanie Blackwell, Trinell Bowman,
Present.
Trisha Dorsey,
Present.
Rachel Doyle, Jamal Jungo, Irma Cottrell, Janie Payne,
Present.
Brittany Patrick,
Present.
Teresa Smith,
Present.
Sharice Vickery,
Present.
and Erica Wingate Robinson.
Present.
There are 7 in total. We have quorum.
Oh, sorry. With the quorum present, the Disability Issues Advisory Board meeting will come to order. Adoption of the meeting agenda. If there are no objections, the committee shall adopt the March 18th, 2025 meeting agenda. There being no objections, the March 18th, 2025 meeting agenda is adopted. Approval of the committee meeting minutes. If there are no corrections, the committee shall approve the February 18th, 2025 meeting minutes as distributed. There being no corrections, the February 18th, 2025 meeting minutes are approved. Report of the Vice Chair. The Vice Chair would like to announce that the new email address for the Disability Issues Advisory Board, that just did not sound right to me, guys. I'm sorry. The Vice Chair announces the new email address for the Disability Issues Advisory Board. The Advisory Board can be contacted at diab@pgcps.org for inquiries. We also will have a Google Drive associated with this email account so that we can share any resources for the entire committee to view. The board has submitted a memo to be sent to all PGCPS principals announcing the reestablishment of DIAB. Then I have 2 other items. And I may need to defer to our board liaison, Ms. Brown. I went and looked at the minutes from November and December, but I didn't see anything documented there. But I believe in one of those meetings, we had a discussion about when we would need to present to the board. And if I'm not mistaken, the October timeframe is what was discussed. But I was recently viewing the policy document, and the policy document says that DIAB shall report annually to the board, providing information on the following issues. And I won't read all of that, but the word annually is what I really want to bring to everyone's attention. So, Ms. Brown, do you have any feedback there? Is annually based on the calendar for the Board of Education, or is it based on when this particular board was reestablished?
That's a good question. Just give me one moment. I did have an answer for that.
Okay, and then for the team here, the reason why I also want to have clarity here is because we only have 3 more meetings left for this school year. So essentially 2 meetings to try to get organized and get this presentation prepared by June, if we need to report by then.
Vice Chair Smith, can we circle back? I just have to find the information
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
I'll
no
let you all know when I'm
problem.
ready.
Okay, then, this is just part of who I am. I wanted to recognize that March is the Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. And I looked up a fact, and it says that individuals who have a developmental disability only show mild symptoms, and with the right support, they can greatly improve, learn, and develop. And I believe that concludes my report. Is there any discussion on any of the items that was presented? Hearing none. We will now have the election for recording secretary. The vice chair now recognizes candidates for the recording secretary position. We will allow for 2 nominees. Member Sharice Vickery has self-nominated. Are there any additional nominees? All right, hearing none. Sharice Vickery is now the recording secretary. Congratulations on your new role. Are you ready to take some notes tonight?
I guess so. I was actually like, oh, if we didn't have anybody, I'll do it. But seeing as you guys decided y'all wasn't going to say nothing, clearly
So,
here we go.
yes, yes. So we did not need to take a vote because it was only one individual, and I didn't hear any objections. So it's all yours. And I think that you would do quite well in it. All right.
Vice Chair Smith, I could just interject. I just want to tell Sharice that you and I can maybe, if you want, have schedule a meeting and we can meet offline so I can just do an overview for you. Okay. I'll reach out to you after the meeting. Okay.
I appreciate that to you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you guys for coordinating that. The next agenda item is subcommittee reports. We will now hear an update from each subcommittee. The vice chair recognizes the subcommittee for board policy 1700. And since we met at our last meeting, Brittany Patrick has stepped up to be the lead for the subcommittee. And there was no objections for the folks that is part of this subcommittee. So, Miss Brittany Patrick, do you have any updates to report out tonight?
Yes, ma'am. It is a very limited update. We have not had a chance to convene. However, I did send a second round of communication out to committee members inquiring about availability for 2 dates, one of which is tomorrow. And I have 2 folks who have confirmed their availability. So I'm going to go ahead and send that calendar invite to hold tomorrow, despite not having heard from the remainder of the committee yet.
Okay, great. Thank you. The vice chair recognizes Ms. Trinell Bowman from the subcommittee for new school construction and accessibility of buildings and facilities for their report.
Thank you so much. So we did have a meeting scheduled, but all committee members weren't able to attend. So we're going to do a reschedule. So I'll get an email out to the subcommittee this week to reschedule. In the meantime, I did ask the committee members to provide me with questions that they had related to new construction and building accessibility. So thank you so much, committee members. We have about 17 questions in our Google Doc. And what I was trying to do by gathering those questions is because some of the questions require responses from other departments beyond the Department of Special Education. So working with our support programs and services, building services, as well as our student services team. I'll be working with those different divisions and offices to respond in preparation for our next committee member meeting. And then that is something that I'll bring back to the full group based on the responses that we get. But we definitely will have to have other offices respond to some of the questions that we've gathered.
Great. Thank you for that report. And actually, guys, it looks like I'm supposed to ask, is there any discussion after each one? My apologies. So let me just back up a little bit. Although the board policy 1700 subcommittee has not met, does anyone here have any questions for Ms. Patrick? Hearing none. Are there any questions for Ms. Bowman for new school construction and accessibility of buildings and facilities? All right, hearing none. The vice chair recognizes Ms. Janie Payne from the subcommittee for employment and hiring for their report.
Thank you. Our subcommittee met on March 8th. The attendees, Ms. Doyle, Ms. Blackwell, Ms. Wingate Robinson, and myself. Ms. Patrick is also on our committee but was unable to attend. We defined expectations and the following issues to address and submit recommendations to the DIAB. We're expanding the opportunity for parents to volunteer, improving staff education on the rules, addressing inadequate compensation and benefits for one-on-one aides, and creating training opportunities for one-on-one aides and specialty teachers. We also went through and defined what data information we need to achieve those outcomes. And there's a long list of those. Things like our turnover rate for aides, wages for all levels, total number of aides, number of vacancies, consistent training that's being received. We also would like to have a meeting with PGCPS CHRO to understand from his or her perspective challenges, actions, and plans. And there was a suggestion to meet with some local school resources to understand best practices. We agreed on how we would accomplish our work. We'll meet twice per month, and our deadlines, which might be impacted by the information about how the DIAB will meet, is that March and April we'll gather and review our data. April and May prepare recommendations, with May submitting our recommendations to the DIAB. And our next meeting is scheduled for Saturday.
Thank
And
you.
that concludes my report.
Sorry for cutting you off. Thank you for that, Ms. Payne. Is there any discussion? So I actually have a couple of things myself. There was an acronym that you called out, specifically when you talked about trying to schedule a meeting with PGCPS. I don't know if I captured it correctly, but I wanted to know what it stands for. Did you say CGRO?
CHRO is the Chief Human Resource Officer.
Okay. Then you talked about the turnover rate for aides. Is that the only discipline that you guys are interested in? And if so, why just that one?
Well, one, we wanted to make sure that the scope of our work was doable, given the time frame. So that's why the attention is on the one-on-one aides. So that was really the driver behind that.
May I ask you a follow-up question there?
Sure.
And this is me trying to conceptualize this under board policy 1700. So is the context of the aides like dealing with someone who needs assistance for mobility purposes?
I think it's just the idea of the one-on-one aid role and the perception that that's an area that really needs to be enhanced when we think about from a human resource perspective and hiring and making sure they're trained and making sure that there's adequate resources there.
Okay. And then you talked about understanding best practices. Who who would we need to engage? Would that still be the chief?
That would be the chief, to help us understand whatever strategies, Prince George's County has in place. Also, Ms. Blackwell, has some insight and, volunteered to collect data to the extent that she could, and it was available to her. So that was our thinking about that.
Okay, and that probably is the next follow-up I had, is how we do follow up officially through the board, because I do realize, um, because of Miss Blackwell or any other person that's on this committee that works for the school system, I just want to make sure that we're following any type of protocol that we would need to do, as it relates to follow up. So with these two items, scheduling the meeting or trying to get a meeting arranged, and then I guess in that meeting, you guys can ask about best practices. So are you guys at the point right now, if we put the inquiry in to request the meeting, should we do that right now?
Yes,
Okay,
that would be great.
all right.
Because to be honest with you, we really weren't sure, how to, make that request and wanted to, bring that for, proper understanding. Yeah.
Gotcha. Miss Johnson and Miss Brown, do you guys have any feedback here? Because the other thing that I also was thinking, if we need any type of presentations, as it relates to any subject that we're doing, what's the process there? Do we just send an email over to you, Miss Johnson?
Yeah, you certainly can. And we will reach out to administration on your behalf and see if we could have some of administration attend the meeting, the DAB meeting that you all are requesting for their presence.
And should that meeting be held with the entire DIAB, or can that subcommittee just have the meeting with whoever the staff member is?
Oh, as far as the subcommittee, I'm not, let me defer to I see my Cindy is in here. Cindy, are you on the call? Let me ask her just for clarity. Okay, maybe she stepped away. We can follow up about that question. Because from the way I've understood it, as long as there isn't a quorum, you don't have to, obviously, you don't have to go live, public. But if there's someone from administration, I'm not really 100% sure if it, needs to involve all of the app or just those in the subcommittee. But we can certainly, I can mark that as a follow-up and get
Okay.
back to you about that.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then how far in advance does an inquiry need to be made?
I would say at least allow them 2 to 3 weeks notice,
Okay,
simply because they're so busy. We want to give them
understood.
be considerate of their time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then this will be my last question. Ms. Payne, you talked about data. Have you guys already identified your data points, and do you want to make that request today as well?
Um, yeah,
Ms. Payne, you went on mute.
yes, we did, decide what data we wanted. Should I list that now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so that if there are any questions, it'll give us an opportunity to ask, and then you can probably follow up with an email so that we can submit it so that you guys can get the data.
Sounds good. Okay. So, we asked for the turnover rate for aides, the wages for all levels within PGCPS, the total number of aides and where they are positioned, the number of aide vacancies, the types of training that aides receive, and the bus driver salary levels, the volunteer policy, and where is the current policy being implemented. That's the list that I have.
Is the volunteer policy not publicly available information already?
Well, if it is, then just direct us to where we can find it. Yeah,
Okay.
and we can pull it ourselves and bring it to our meeting. That's fine.
Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think you called out 7 with that.
The
in
other
bus-
one was that was just the general meeting, which we addressed earlier with the
Okay.
CHRO.
Okay.
I'm
All
sorry,
right. I know we have some hands.
Miss
Oh.
Miss Smith, before we move on, I missed the bus driver. You wanted the number of bus drivers, or can you
The
just
wages.
the
The
wages?
bus
Thank you.
driver salary levels. I mean, one could say it's going to be included in the overall request for salary, but there was a specific request for bus driver salary levels.
Okay. I know that there are some hands and I see you guys, but just, I wanted to ask quickly, is there any discussion around the data points that this subcommittee, the employment and hiring subcommittee is requesting today?
I don't have any discussion, Vice Chair Smith, but I do have an additional data point that I collected. I don't know if now is the time to share or if I should hold that until our next committee meeting.
Is it related to employment and hiring?
It is.
Okay, sure. You can share it.
Okay, thank you, Committee Member Payne, for your update. I apologize for missing the previous committee meeting, but I do expect to make the next one. So I did take advantage of FOIAing some information from PGCPS related to Administrative Procedure 4172. And this procedure states that a report must be made to the CEO by the Equity Assurance Officer annually related to the number of employee accommodations requested, including approvals and denials, the associated cost of employees' requested accommodations that are fulfilled, the details of related training programs to employee accommodations, and the timelines for completion of fulfilling these accommodations and et cetera. And so I did FOIA that information from the district. They provided it to me within 30 days, and I'd be happy to I don't know if I would send that to the DIAB email address or if that would be information I could share with the committee. And also, I do expect to be able to share more context around why I chose to FOIA that information at the next committee meeting, Ms. Payne.
If there are no objections here, I think that this is information that can be put in our Google Drive and then everyone could have access to it to review it. So I'll send out a link to, or Chair Blackwell can send out a link to the entire committee with the location of the folder.
Yes. And then, Ms. Patrick, I'd like to, I haven't done the agenda for Saturday as of yet, but to have a specific agenda item for you to talk with the subcommittee about it in more detail, I think would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Ms. Bowman.
So we do have an administrative procedure for volunteer services, which is 4216.6. And it is on the public website. And then the other piece for aides, Ms. Payne, can you clarify what type of aides? I think that's going to be important because we have different buckets. For example, paraprofessionals are considered support positions. Or are you talking about the temporary aides? When you say aides, I think clarifying what group you're
Clarifying that
speaking.
with the group and
I can
I
share.
don't, maybe you could help me because we
Sure.
didn't distinguish when we were having the conversation. So I don't want to misrepresent the group. So I'd like to clarify that on Saturday when we meet.
Sure. And our staffing plan, our special ed staffing plan is publicly available on our special education landing page. So I'll send that to you, which denotes every single special ed position that's under the special ed staffing plan. So that may help you when you meet on Saturday. So
That'd be
but it's right
great.
on the PGCPS, yep, landing page
Thank
for
you.
special ed. You're welcome.
Great. I don't see any more hands. Is there any additional discussion? Oh, hearing none. The next agenda item is exploring ways to advise, and to put this in context, we had an agenda item basically for us to discuss how could we have a coordinated effort when we do engagement, whether that be directly with schools or any other stakeholder. So I'll open up the floor for any discussion here.
I will jump in and share that. Thank you, Vice Chair Smith, for providing some context as well. Earlier on, Ms. Vickery put this on the table on one of our earlier meetings because the question was, can we reach out directly to schools within our district to let them know who we are and what we're doing? However, I think since we've had that meeting, our understanding of our collective purpose has evolved. And so I'm wondering how relevant or necessary it might be to engage constituents within our respective districts about the work we're doing here.
Thank you for that. Any other commentary here, guys?
Yeah, I think in regards to that, as I know that I missed the last committee meeting, but I've been able to watch the video and catch up. Um, I think in regards to that, I think it would be best if we had our respective district representatives, reach out to us and provide us with the feedback that they're getting from the schools in our district. Especially, I know some of us are connected to schools as we're parents, and we might have kids across multiple schools in one district, or might have kids across multiple schools throughout the district, throughout the whole county. And then also with kind of some of the other like civic and other organizations that we're part of. But I think it's best if we had maybe an opportunity for our representatives to come and kind of give us some feedback. We do have Representative Brown, but then we would also want to know from all the other districts, like what's going on. We might be gathering this data and providing feedback, but we also might need to know specific things. So yeah, I agree. We might not need to go the path of introducing ourselves to schools and things like that, but I definitely encourage Representative Brown and her colleagues to kind of reach out to the representatives from each one of their district and provide feedback for this advisory board.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vice Chair Smith. So you all raised an excellent point. A lot of board members do host their monthly meetings with their constituents and with the community. And I have my coffee and conversations every single month, except for May because of graduations and things like that. But the past one that I did have some parents who did come and speak to me about opportunities to be more involved within special education advocacy, and I did mention to them DIAB. And so I wanted to make sure that they were aware of it, but it also gives an opportunity, and we will definitely connect offline. It does give an opportunity for you to connect with your board member and maybe even give a small space where you as a constituent can talk about, and even being a part of this committee can say, hey, can you give me 10 minutes where I can talk about DIAB and what we do during your next coffee and conversation or community chats. They all have different names with it. And so I definitely encourage you all to reach out. Of course, you could always CC me on there, always ask me to kind of do some, and I definitely will connect individuals together if you haven't heard from your specific person, if you're a representative, I could definitely be the person that can bridge you two together and see if we could partner up and kind of promote this opportunity. But I also want to bring up I'm going to let Trinell speak, because I know there's opportunities possibly on Saturdays when you guys have the workshops, if parents can talk. I don't want to take away from what the work that you guys are doing on Saturdays, but maybe this is another opportunity, and maybe she could explain a little bit more over. I didn't mean to put you on blast.
The chair recognizes Ms. Bowman.
Thank you. So we do we're getting ready to kick off our 14th or 15th annual Parent Empowerment Conference that will start this month in March and go all the way through the end of May, with a variety of workshops that will be held. I know that we have sent that communication out to our communications team, and it should be posted out on our website. I can definitely share that with Ms. Johnson to send out to the entire DIB committee. We also are having our third annual Autism Summit that will be taking place on March 29th as well, where we'll have a variety of workshops. And then those of you who may not know, we do host a series of evening and Saturday workshops for parents to support them on a variety of topics. And we can make sure that as those new workshops are coming out, that we share that with this group as well. So there's a lot of parent outreach that our parent center does with families that are very well received. So we can make sure that we are communicating to this group as we send out that information throughout our district to include you all.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? So I would agree with what Ms. Patrick and Ms. Vickery stated about whether or not it's our purview to directly go out and seek information. I will say this past Saturday for my district, ours is called Chat and Chew. We had our Chat and Chew, and one of the communities, there was a parent and there was a community stakeholder present, and there was confusion around what's the difference between DIAB and CCAC. I mean, I was there, so I was able to explain the difference, but it did make me wonder, could there be confusion from other constituents? So there may be an opportunity for our board members to, we know that the letter is going out to the different schools, but there may be an opportunity for our board members to engage with their constituents as well about what's the purview of this group. I did have a question, and I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but I was wondering, is there a policy or procedure around doing a survey if this group wanted to collect data from different individuals?
Um, Vice Chair Smith, if I may interject, or I could defer to Board Member Brown, but I think that the collection of data, I'm not sure about a survey, but we have in place an internal communication system, and that's pretty much the best way to retrieve data. Specifically, not really sure about sending out a survey. We could look into that. The board office could look into that, but generally, the collection of data is reaching out to administration.
Understood.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm just thinking off the fly right now. If I think about accommodations, with some of the information that Ms. Patrick just relayed.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Smith, but can I just interject? I'm sorry. It's possible that a survey could be done. I was just thinking just now, I have seen surveys from other organizations within PGCPS, so it's something I could certainly, I'll put it down as a follow-up item and
Okay,
get back
that'll
to
be
you all
great.
about that. Yes.
Yeah, because there may be, in my mind, and now I don't have to be specific considering what you just said, but there may be opportunities to collect additional information from what the current data is not telling us. So I'll say it like that. So thank you for taking that down as a follow-up. Ms. Payne?
Thank you, Vice Chair Smith. I assume the letter that's going out to principals would be, we would be able to access it on our, you talked about our Google site or the site that we have for DIAB. The reason I ask is it might be helpful to have some coordinated message, right? So if we're each going to be meeting with our districts, what are the messages that we want to send? What's important for all of us to communicate, and having some guidelines around that might be very helpful.
So I think that that's a really good idea, and perhaps I could work with Chair Blackwell and we can draft something up. I will say that the letter that, if it wasn't changed, maybe Ms. Johnson, you could give some commentary here. But the letter that was drafted is very generic. It's just really alerting the schools that this board has been reestablished, what's the purview of this board, who the representatives are. So it's very generic. But what I think I hear from you, we may want to get a little bit more specific. So perhaps we can create a secondary letter that we're using for our messaging. So thank you for sharing that. All right, any additional discussion, guys? All right, I am not hearing any.
Vice Chair Smith, Board Member Brown has her hand raised.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, you're recognized.
Yeah, so there is a board policy 5125.4, informed consent, student data gathering. I did kind of go through it just a little bit. So I will get with the P&G chair, Dr. Felton Moss, to really get into more granular details regarding it. But we want to make sure that there's no PII that's involved when it comes to personal identifiable information, so that we protect parents and students of that sort, and how we design that survey moving forward. But I just wanted to make sure that you all know there is a board policy that is online currently.
Great, thank you. So we pretty much have covered all of our agenda items. So Ms. Brown, if you had anything to add related to the annual report, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you so much, Vice Chair Smith, and thank you so much to all the committee members. I really appreciate you all taking the time and being here, to Ms. Bowman for being here as well, representing PGCPS. It's super important to know that the work that you all do is amazing, and whatever I can do to assist, I'm definitely here to help. What I can say is that I did reach out to the board director prior to him being on leave, asking about the question regarding, is it an annual report? Is it written? Is it what exactly is it? The information that he did not give me the actual information as far as when it would be due. However, he did say it does not have to be a written report. So this is good, in my opinion, right? We can kind of just say it out loud and how we feel about kind of what we're doing now. But what I can do is that he did say that he wanted to forward it to the next board meeting, which is going to be next Thursday. So I'll be waiting on board docs to see if it's available. If it's not available, that's when I'll contact the board chair to see where we go from here as far as when that report will be due. So if you guys could just wait till next week for me to get more clarification on when it would actually be due, I can give you that information. But that is the follow-up that I did receive from him. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. So this, as far as discussion behind this, although it was stated we don't need a written report,
Yeah.
I would caution us in that regard, because we have not been able to find any past information as far as it relates
You
to,
make a good point.
yeah, actions that was done in the past. So
Vice Chair Smith, I'm sorry, if I may just, may I be recognized? I'm sorry. There is I believe, a report from 2018. It appears to have been at the time, the DAB's annual report. I can provide that. I'll send it to leadership, to you and Stephanie, to review first. and look through that. And that's pretty much all I had to add for that part. But yeah, it looked like they did do a annual report after before I guess before the advisory board was deactivated.
Decommission. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that'll be great. So yeah, considering the type of work that we're doing, we want to try to make sure we have a record, know what actions are moving forward, what actions are being tabled. I think that that's good information for us to have a record for. So I saw a couple of hands, Miss Cindy. Oh, Cindy. I don't know if that was a mistake when her hand was up. Miss Vickery.
Would it be possible, Ms. Johnson, if we could at least, if the whole advisory board could at least see the action items, maybe not the
Oh,
whole
sure.
report, but at least the action items, because we may have some subcommittees that are going to meet soon.
Sure. Actually, I'll
Um,
just send it to the I can send it to y'all, everyone, so y'all
okay.
can take
But
a look at it.
if you take a look at it beforehand and you see that there's some things that maybe the whole advisory board shouldn't see, I'm just asking specifically for the action items right now for the subcommittees. And then
Okay.
a decision can be made about the rest of the report later. But
Okay, what I'll do is I'll just send it to leadership first, and then I'll allow Stephanie and Teresa to make the decision what pieces they would want sent to the rest of you, if that's fair enough. Or
yeah, that's kind of my request.
okay,
And chair and vice chair, if we could get the action items, because I know that there's a subcommittee that plans to meet this Saturday. And if you see any, or at least if you see any action items from that 2018 report that would impact the hiring, I believe it's the hiring and employment subcommittee that's meeting on Saturday, that would impact them. If they could get that before that meeting, I think that would be like truly helpful.
Absolutely. You were cutting out, but I got the gist of what the request is. Thank you. Miss Dorsey?
Yes, I apologize. Can I be added to, because I realized I was not added to any of the committees because I didn't get anything. Can I be added to the building one with Miss Foreman? I think.
Sure. You want to be added to the subcommittee.
I just realized that I wasn't added to any of them, and I want to be able to participate in them.
Vice Chair Smith, if I can just follow up with Miss Dorsey, I believe you were added to a subcommittee. I want to say it was an employment and hiring.
What?
Is it-
Because I didn't get the email, which
I-
is why I was trying to make sure.
I remember at the last meeting, I believe you were added to a subcommittee. It would be in the notes that's posted on board docs, but I believe you were added. And I also wanted to step in because we have to make sure that it's not going to be 7 members, which would be a quorum, which would mean that subcommittee would have to hold their meetings as an open session. So we have to be mindful that we keep the number less than 7.
Ms.
If you
Johnson,
want to meet, yes.
I have the minutes open.
Okay.
Ms. Dorsey is on the employment and hiring
Okay.
subcommittee. And by her being there already, it's at 6 members.
Is that 6? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that's not a quorum. So
What
we're
if
good.
Miss Dorsey is interested in the other one and she has capacity? I mean, I don't think that we will be at quorum, but even if we were, we just need to coordinate to get the meeting as an open meeting. I just don't want any member to feel like if it's a area of interest that the limitation will be due to the OPA requirements.
Okay. No, sure. I mean, that's totally up to you all. Which one was she asking to be added to, and how
N-
many members are already?
New school construction and accessibility, and she could be added. We would not hit quorum.
Okay. All right. Sure.
Are you okay with that, Miss Dorsey?
I am perfectly fine. I can help with both if they need it. I don't mind at all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. May I ask that there was a list of who's on what committee. Could we just update that so it's current? Thank you.
Absolutely. Uh-huh. All right, guys. Is there anything else that we needed to address related to the agenda items today? All right, hearing none. The vice chair informs the public that the next virtual disability issues advisory board meeting will be on April 8th, 2025. Please continue to check the Prince George's County Board of Education website for meeting information and updates. Thank you all for the great discussion as well as your attendance. To our viewers, thank you for watching. There being no further business, the time is now 6:55 p.m. and the March 18th, 2025 Disability Issues Advisory Board meeting is adjourned. Good night, guys.